Hey, thanks again for joining us here on the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. I've got a real good friend, business peer as well. I'm just super excited for today's podcast. Help me welcome Mr. Throws himself, Mr. Rob Lasorsa. Rob, how are you, sir?
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be on. Your podcast has been fantastic. I listened to all of them. What are you up to? 121 now or something like that?
Something. I quit trying to count that high.
They're fantastic. So I'm honored to be on.
Well, thank you. And you part of that success and accolades for the podcast actually goes to you. And what's his name? I'm so sorry. From the Virtual Throws conference.
Brandon Groover. Brandon,
yeah. You guys have done awesome. I love the YouTube format with it. Really.
That was all Brandon's idea. I mean, he asked me when he came up with it. He asked me to be a guest. And I kind of said, that would be fine, but I think maybe we could help you with this a little bit. And so we talked about it and was able to do something. That's been a lot of fun. We haven't had a ton of them, but that's been a lot of fun.
What you have definitely traded in volume, but for quality. I mean, the guests that you have on there.
Yeah.
Amazing job, man. It's really awesome.
Got to call in the favors.
Yeah,
calling those favors there, Mike.
That's right.
That's how you know the business.
Well,
calling those favors.
That's how you're on the podcast right now.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love the setup you have with Groover as kind of the host, and then you have the guest. I always think of you as like the Ed McMahon of that show. You kind of sit in the corner and you have your good laughs, and you'll poke your jabs in there. You're the Ed McMahon, my man. But today, you're on the hot seat. No Ed McMahon today. You were on the hot seat. Why don't we start with Rob? A lot of people, and I wasn't kidding when I say Mr. Throws, right? You have an unbelievable background in the throws community. Why don't we start with where you are today? You are a professional sales rep for one of the most well-known track companies out there, ones that we are just super proud to be partnered with as dealers of ours as a manufacturer, is MF Athletics. So talk to us about, what do you do at MF? How long you been there? How'd you get there? Talk to us about that.
Well, I've been with MF. This is my 25th year. I've been with them since 1995. I was coaching before that and had a good relationship with Bill Falk, who was the original owner of MF Athletic. We had a good relationship before that through camps and clinics, and just being as a customer, we were customers of theirs. And he came along one day and said, would you be interested in working for me someday? And I think I probably went through a little bit same thing that you went through. You had a coaching background that you want to, you go through a little bit of a change of career, and you question whether you can do it or not, or you think that's not really my thing. But I'll never forget one thing after I was with MF for a year, and I was Bill first said, why don't you give it a year? You can always go back to coaching. And but after that first year, Bill said, I really need you around here for 3 to 5 years to learn the business, to learn what's going on. And I never heard that before. I mean, as an employer telling you they need you around for a few years,
right.
Coaching was always a 1-year deal. There was no multi-year contract.
I always heard the opposite. We don't want you here, Mike.
Yeah. So at the time I was living in Ohio, and we had MF Athletic had Bill, and obviously his son Eric was also highly involved, and now Eric runs the company, obviously. And we went. We had, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 employees in the office, and the warehouse people, and they had me living in Ohio, just kind of running around all over the place, just kind of being a representative of MF. And that was a lot of fun. We did a lot of clinics, a lot of camps, all the state association things. You got all the things that Gill Athletic goes to too. You just go constantly on the road, and then that kind of morphed into being more of a sales sales position. And then
I'm sure like you know, I get coaches all the time. Every year, you know, I get coaches that say, hey, what's it like? You know, you used to be a coach, now you're in sales for track. Do you get that off? Like most people kind of don't really know what we do. They think they might know what we do, but really don't. Kind of talk to us, what does it entail to be a salesperson for track and field equipment?
Well, you know, ultimate
loaded question.
Ultimate. Did you tell me you were going to ask a hard question first? You know, hey, you like any other sales job, you try to provide a service for your customers and your clients, and you have different ways of doing that, and hopefully, if you provide good service, and in our case, we try to do additional things like provide educational opportunities, and we before COVID, we were all on the road a lot and seeing our customers face to face, and you try to give people a reason. Bill always said, don't give people a reason not to buy from you, which meant, you know, hey, Rob and Mike Cunningham, they're at all these state association conferences. They meet all these people. They put on camps. They put on clinics. We see them all over the place. I need a shot put. I need a discus. Why not? Why not buy it from Mike or Rob? You know, or from MF or Gil. You just provide that type of opportunity for your customers. Well, and so yeah, it's sales, and the sales job involves a lot more than just calling up a lot of people and emailing a lot of people and that. I mean, it's obviously with COVID, I think you're experiencing the same thing. We've been on kind of a travel ban, and you go from and you've traveled more than I did but you go from those 150 to 250 days a year on the road to zero, but you got to find a way to still get it done somehow.
I had Hilton Hotels called me the other day and just told me they missed me.
Yeah.
The stock has gone down for Hilton and American Airlines.
Yeah. You ever want to add something, especially when you get a little older and you start adding in all those, you know, they know how many nights you've stayed in, say, a Hilton hotel, and then it gets kind of depressing. Like you said, I realized I spent over 5 years of my life in a hotel room.
Wow. Holy cow.
And it's just like, man. And those are always, you know, it's not like your family's with you. That's usually by yourself. You're usually eating by yourself.
Right. Coming from that coaching background, though, we kind of get that, though. You know, we're used to being on the road and just having these around you. Yeah. Well, you must be. You talked about giving customers a reason to buy from you and not giving them reasons not to buy from you. You've been doing this for 25 years. That's amazing. So you must be giving a lot of people good reasons to buy from. Everybody knows Rob, first of all. Whether you're a throws community or not, you know Rob Lasorsa. Part of that is because he's been around forever. Well, I get it.
I appreciate you saying that, Mike. But it's been a good run.
And you said good run. That's a great segue, because you gave me some bad news about a month ago.
Not bad news.
It is for me. I don't like hearing this. This is not good for me at all. What's happening at the end of December this year for you?
Well, you know, back in January or February, I told MF Athletic that I was going to retire at the end of the year, and I'm still doing that. And December 31st, depends how you look at it. I'm on the West Coast. So, you know, is it 5 p.m. or 2:30 p.m., which would be the equivalent East Coast time, since MF is an East Coast company. But yeah, I'm retiring at the end of the year. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be still around. I'm still going to be involved in track and the throws and doing some other projects. But I'm retiring from my present position.
Well, first of all, congratulations for getting to a stage where you can retire. I mean, it's not.
Well, I'm not sure if that's the case yet.
Well, okay, at least getting to a stage where you think you just fake it. That's right.
I'll let you know how it goes.
When you call Mark back up.
I might be applying for an internship at Gill pretty soon.
I'd take you in a heartbeat, buddy. I'd take you in a heartbeat.
Only if it's a paid internship.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. So 25 years, and congratulations on getting to a stage where you can retire. That is a big deal. That is important.
Well, MF, and I owe a lot of that to MF, because MF, I've always said they treat their employees like they try to treat their customers. They're always fair. You always feel wanted. It's a great company to work for. They've been a successful company, so it leads to good things in the long run.
You've done a lot of things over 25 years with MF, everything from sell a shot put to complete facilities. Is there a memory that sticks out from you that was just kind of like, man, I'm really proud that I was able to do this?
One memory?
It's or a couple.
It's a lot. It's I don't have a particular, I'm sure with all the projects that you're involved in, you could look at a facility and say, wow, that's, and I've seen a lot of your facilities. They're fantastic. They're unbelievable. I don't look at it that way. I kind of look at it more of who we can help, who we've helped at certain times, or at needed times. And I'm probably going to jinx myself. I know this is going to be the case. I'm going to jinx myself, but every time an elite athlete has needed a piece of equipment at last second, whether it was overnighting a discus to Moscow for a diamond league meet, or world championships back then, or overnighting a shot put to Michelle Carter, or getting it, every time that person has either had a personal best or broke an American record.
Wow.
Or won a medal.
Yeah.
So
did you really overnight?
Like I said, I'm good.
Did you really overnight a discus to Moscow?
Yeah, $330.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. See, as a guy that works in this, I'm like, how much did that cost? Holy cow.
Yeah. That was to Mike Turk. That was to Mike Turk and Gia Lewis.
Gia, yeah.
Smalley, yeah. So, but you try to get situations like that. I mean, Michael called me up. I was at a camp in Indiana with the USA championships were at Drake, and something, I don't know what the problem was. They were having a problem with one of their shots, and they needed a 109 millimeter or that thereabouts. And I'm at this camp. I just happened to have one with me at this camp.
Wow.
Now I was going down to the championships, but I was going down a day later. So I sent that off to her, and
wow,
she picks it up and breaks an American record. So the key is see, all the implements you buy from MF are lighter, so they go farther. And that's the key to being successful.
Every official that's listening right now just cringed. Check it twice.
Yeah.
That is.
But so those are things, and just like, but Gil's the same way, and you're the same way. I know you. Like I said, I've seen these projects that you have immersed yourself into. That must be quite thrilling to see the completion date and see them completed, because I can't imagine what you deal with. I mean, you're dealing with architects and contractors and the end user, and that end user is not necessarily, it might be a mayor or a city council or a school board or something. It's not necessarily your local track coach. And most times it's probably not your local track coach.
All right. Yeah, I think you're right. I talked about projects and stuff, but when I think about the projects, and you're right, I've been so blessed to work on some amazing projects, but it's not the building or the equipment that is like what I think about the most. I think about the people that it affects. Like, I look at one of my first projects that I did, and the one I'm maybe most proud of, because it's community, it's where I'm from, is Alabama, right? Was the big crossplex.
Perfect. Yeah.
I grew up running on this and if anybody who grew up in Alabama, they know exactly the track I'm talking about. This wood splintered, used to be in a horse barn in Decatur, Alabama. It literally was colder inside the facility than it was outside the facility. I mean, it was just terrible. And so when the crossplex was, it took some while to get there, but when it was being built, it was like, oh, we're not going to lose it. This is my home track. Like a track like this is not supposed to be in my home state of Alabama. And so now to see the area around the crossplex, how it is as well.
Yeah.
That to me is like, that's where I'm proud. I was like, oh, I was a small part. Let's get real here. The track equipment, even though it's large in my life, the building is way more expensive and the people that take care of it.
Yeah, but it's still it's a track. It's everything in there, and you have think of all the thousands and thousands and thousands of kids that have competed in there now at all levels. And
all over.
So and all over, and you give those. That's just providing an opportunity for those those people.
Yeah, that's the part I'm proud of. Absolutely.
Yeah, when we first started with this conversation, I was going to say Birmingham.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was going to say that had to be your favorite one.
No doubts. And it's got the best sweet tea. So
yeah.
Well,
yes, you got to ask the sweet tea though.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, right. You just say,
yeah, tea that you add sugar into is not sweet.
Yeah.
That's just cold water.
Yeah.
You need brewed sweet tea. That's right. So one of the other things that you've done over the past 25 years, I'm not sure, help us understand when you actually started it. You started the NTCA, the National Throws Coaches Association. So talk to us about how that got started. When did you start it, and why would you do more things? You're busy enough with it.
Well, again, Bill always encouraged us to do things that would help from an educational standpoint. And for a long time, I was the USATF National Shot Put Development Chair, and as part of that, we would do meetings and summits and some clinics here and there. So we were scheduled to have one of our annual summits in Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
And the reason we were going to do it down there is because it was the easiest at the time, because Reese Hoffer and Adam Nelson and a couple other guys were already down there. I said, well, we're going to do this thing. Why don't we have some type of coaches clinic? Be great that all the guys would be there and they could have do a little clinic while we're there. And that we termed that, we ended up saying that was going to be the NCAA coaches clinic, throws coaches clinic.
Okay.
So that's what we did. We termed it the NCAA National Throws Coaches Clinic, and that's what we did in Georgia that first year, and that was pretty successful. So then we came up with the National Throws Coaches Association off of that, and we were able to do a number of great conferences, and we continued to do clinics and just try to keep promoting the sport as much as possible, keep promoting the throws as much as possible, keep promoting the sport as much as possible, keep providing as many opportunities as you possibly can. And of course, with Gil's help and MF's athletics help, we've been able to do that.
You said who have been some people that have been instrumental helping you get it off the ground and keeping it successful?
Mainly my wife.
Number one. That's good.
Yeah. She didn't know much about the throws, but she did all the background work on everything.
That's awesome.
But once we got rolling with it and we started establishing a Hall of Fame, first of all, and you stop mentioning names. It's hard to mention names because you'll always forget somebody,
sure.
Right? So at the first, you had guys like Gary Aldridge and who's the 2021 throws coach for the Olympic team. But Gary Aldridge was one of the initial ones. Joe Napoli in New Jersey and Mark Hasher in Portage, Indiana has always been a great help. Jim Akins in Illinois, Mark Heckel, who's a official throws official that I know you know, Mark. He's big guy, tall guy.
Okay.
He was really instrumental in helping out at first, and they all continue to help. And like I said, I didn't want to stop mentioning names because I know I forgot Peter. But once we started with the Hall of Fame, that initial class that we had was Hal Connolly was part of that initial class, and Hal got really excited about all this, and so he did a lot of clinics and things like that with us, but he was really focused in on making sure that we did a good job with the Hall of Fame, and along with Mark Heckel. Mark Heckel has always been the director of the Hall of Fame part of the Throwers Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. We haven't started honoring coaches, which is going to be the next thing, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have the Throwers Hall of Fame, and then we figured, well, it's the Throws coaches group. We should be honoring coaches. And
as a champion of coaches, that's where I go to. I love athletes.
Yeah.
I love coaches. Yeah. Come on now.
And that's Gil has your you guys honor the coaches great, like you do with the Coach of the Year honors, and that's a tremendous thing. And then those are all the little things. Mm-hmm. That's not a little thing, but right. Just giving credit where credit is due. Now these guys are killing it. You got some athletic director, he's killing himself. I mean, he's at school all day long. He's, and then he has to stay. You got football and all these sports in the fall, and I think the winter even becomes worse because you got a lot of things going on at night. So that's a typical athletic director day. Then you got the coaches, and they're teaching all day long probably, and then they're trying to coach. Then they're going to meets on weekends. If it's a college coach, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and you're gone a lot, just like we are in our sales positions. And you just want to make sure that people realize that you understand what they're doing, and you understand the great joy that they're bringing to other people, and what they're doing for other people. So if you can honor them some way, whether it's through what you guys are doing at Gil with the Coach of the Year awards, I have found, I start naming off some of these coaches, and since I'm older, a lot of these guys are my age or older, and I find some of these unbelievable coaches aren't in their state Hall of Fames. And it's just they get older and people forget about them. So I've made a kind of a mission to go around and make sure that these coaches that are older, people realize what they accomplished, and make sure they get recognized for that. And that could go as far as maybe some coach or athlete doesn't, just because they're older, they may not be in their high school Hall of Fame or county Hall of Fame or something like that. Something, and the reason might be something they forgot about them. Somebody never nominated them.
Right.
I mean,
I love your heart posture towards coaches. Agree 100%. These are some of the most selfless men and women out there that are, hours. I mean, with your high school coach, it's a whole nother job beyond your teaching job.
Yeah.
When you're college, it's everything. It's 24/7.
Yeah.
You are taking care of other people's kids for a long time and helping them achieve success and joy, some all the way up through the college levels. But there's plenty of stories we hear and read about that kids' lives were turned around because of track and field specifically. Well, that doesn't happen without a coach driving the bus. And I mean that,
Yeah.
right? Literally driving the bus,
Yeah.
but also, scheduling and being available and continuing to learn so they can get better as a coach to help the kids more.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't, we all know people in other professions, lawyers and doctors and teachers are awesome too. I'll plug those for sure. But, we know many, many other career paths out there. I can't find one as selfless as track coaches.
Very true. And you start thinking, I've talked to some friends of mine in the financial world, and in particular, one of my best friends that I grew up with is in the financial world in Boston, and he does really, really well for himself, and he's really well known. And he always says, if you guys ever went into this business, you guys ever worked that hard in this business,
oh yeah,
you'd really be making doing
right.
well.
Yeah. So there was the mistake.
Yeah. That's why I know. Thanks for telling me that.
Got it.
But he was just alluding to the fact that, geez, he's very good at his job. He's one of the best in the country, probably one of the best in the world. And but he's still 9 to 5, weekends off.
Oh,
and he does
it. I can't. Although I've kind of gotten that over through COVID, unfortunately. This is the closest 9 to 5 I've been really my whole life since school, I guess.
So think of take any spring weekend, this past spring, and think of when was the last time you were home for a full weekend on during the springtime?
Yeah.
What I mean, high school.
long time.
It's
I'm trying to think of the last track meet I actually went to. I was at the NCAA indoors, but we didn't actually get to compete. So before that, I probably went to one of the conference meets or something. Man, that was a long time. And I'm an observer at this point. I can't imagine what the kids and coaches feel like. I mean, this is all they do is they build themselves up to compete at these, and they're not even available to them now. So it's tough.
The kids I feel most sorry for were the kids that lost their senior year,
right,
in high school. In college, you can get a year back.
That's a good point.
And if you're, a freshman in high school, it's horrible, but at least you got more time. But that senior spring year, you got a lot of kids really blossom that senior spring year, and so they create opportunities for themselves. Number one, but it's also just the whole, prom and graduation and state track meet, and you missed out on all of that. It's horrible.
I've got a neighbor who was a pretty good volleyball player. Her senior year was last year. And so, no prom, her graduation, I felt so bad for her. Her graduation party was the neighbors sitting in her front lawn. And I was like, she doesn't want to hang out with us. She wants to be like, well, you really are suffering. Well, you mentioned growing up. Let's get in our Wayback Machine here. Talk to us. Where'd you grow up, and when did track become a part of your life?
Grew up in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, central Massachusetts. I'm sure you can't tell by my accent. I haven't.
All the places you've gone to, that has stayed.
I haven't lived there since I was 20 years old. So that's 40 years, and I never lost the accent.
Wow.
But I grew up, great family, one typical neighborhood back there where you have. We had about 20 kids on our street, and everybody's just running amok all the time. So it was a great time growing up. Then went to Shrewsbury High School, and how I got interested in track was that I played basketball. I went out for baseball my freshman year, and I got cut. So instead of going out for another sport, I joined a local gym. I was about 5'2", weighing about 120 pounds at the time.
Really?
I was small.
Wow.
And the guys at the gym took me under their wing, and they showed me all about lifting and training and things like that. And that summer, I started going to some Marine Corps in the city of Worcester. There was a Marine Corps reserve base. And every Wednesday night, at a place called Foley Stadium, they would run all-comer meets. And so I started going to those meets.
Track and field all-comer meets?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just, somebody, it was just one of those things. My brother was a runner. I said, I'll go over there. And we'd go over there, and I initially would go over there to run. They put me in some relay or something. And then one day I tried throwing the shot, and I threw 32 feet. First time ever with a 4K. And I was hooked.
I was going to ask, I was going to ask, more importantly, did it grab you though?
Yeah. So that whole summer, we were trying, and I'd joke around. I didn't even know the rules. You just got out there and tossed things around. First time I tried throwing the javelin, I've told this story many times. There were only 2 or 3 kids in my age group, so we're throwing the javelin, and I threw one that was flat, so that was a foul. I threw one out of the sector, so that was a foul. So I had two fouls. Mm-hmm. And the colonel, that was the official, said, "Listen, there's only a couple kids in your flight. You only have to get a mark to get 3 more throws in the finals," which I didn't even know what the trials or finals was. He just said, "You just get a mark, and we'll give you 3 more throws." I said, "Okay." So I just need to have this thing stick in. I ran up to the line. I stuck it right in front of me over the line, and I stood there and looked. And the judge, the colonel, said, "Well, measure." And after he said measure, I walked over the board to pick up my javelin, and he caught a foul.
Rob, first of all, I thought this was going to be the greatest 3-foot javelin story ever.
No. If I had thrown it about 20 feet, I wouldn't have had the inclination to walk out the front. But I just ran up, threw right in front of him. Okay, I'll go pick it up.
That's awesome. So no more javelin throwing for you. Okay.
No more javelin.
Got it. But the shot put really grabbed you,
huh? got involved in high school, obviously, and went on through high school and did okay for myself, and ended up at Springfield College in Massachusetts for my undergraduate degree.
How far is that from the house?
From Springfield, it was only 30 miles away, 35 miles away from where we grew up. Of course, when you're that age, and I had a late birthday, so I entered college when I was 17 years old.
Oh wow!
So when you're that age, 30 miles away, it might as well be 1,000 miles away. You get so homesick, and
for all my 30 and under listeners right now, he didn't have internet and things like that.
Schools.
There's no Uber for him to go visit other schools.
Yeah. No, there was a thumb. I used hitchhike all over the place. I'm thinking like, wow, I wouldn't pick this guy up now.
Well, obviously, you said you were 5'2" and 130 soaking wet back then. You grew up. You became a pretty good thrower, right?
Yeah, we did okay. I had the great opportunity. It was just a matter of luck. I got to Springfield College, and they had a pretty good team. They were Division II at the time. The head coach was a guy named Ken Clacker, who had been there for a long time, and that was it. You had a head coach and you had some graduate assistants. One of the graduate assistants was a guy named Mike Woysick, who was a discus thrower at Boston College. Good discus thrower. He threw over 180 feet, and he was doing his grad work at Springfield College. And so he as a GA, he was our throws coach for a couple of years. And Mike, after 2 years, and he was fantastic, and probably was the most influence on my life as far as getting into furthering myself into track and things like that. But Mike went on to, after he graduated Syracuse, went on to Syracuse, graduated from Springfield, went on to Syracuse University. He, and this is strange, funny too, is, he takes a job, Syracuse University, major Division I school. He was a strength coach for all sports, and he was an assistant track coach in charge of all field events. $12,000 a year. Oh. That's what he was at. So
wow.
But Mike ended up going from years later. He Jimmy Johnson hired him down with the Cowboys, strength and conditioning coach. He won 3 Super Bowls with them. He went on to New Orleans, then went on to the Patriots, won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots, went back to the Cowboys for a couple of years, and he just recently retired too. For the longest time, Mike Wojcik was the only person ever, athlete, coach, combination of both, that had 6 Super Bowl rings. A lot of guys, like at the time, Brady and Belichick and 3 of those Cowboys, they had 5, but nobody had 6. And that, Belichick has, the Brady and Belichick has since done that also. But yeah, he was the only guy that was.
That guy was your graduate.
That guy was my graduate assistant.
Holy cow!
And so after I got into, I got out of school, college. I still had, I thought I wanted to teach. I still had student teaching to do.
Is that what you? I was going to ask you. What did you go to school for? Did you think you were going to be?
I thought I was going to be a phys ed teacher in Central Massachusetts my whole life.
Was mom or dad teacher, or how did that? Why teaching?
No, yeah, actually, my dad was a teacher. He was a teacher at a trade school. I just, it was. I thought I was going. For some reason, I thought I'd be a phys ed teacher in some place in Central Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I got out. My senior year ended at Springfield, but I still had student teaching to do. But they let's see. I still had another year of indoor eligibility left. So I wanted to stay at school and another year and finish my eligibility left, and continue throwing. Mike suggested, hey, why don't you come up to Syracuse, train with me for the first semester, and we'll see if you can get some type of internship. So I worked it out with the school dean and the officials at the school, and they approved. And this was the first time ever that was the first time anybody ever was able to do in the country, I believe, do a strength and conditioning internship.
Yeah, there wasn't really strength and conditioning coaches back then.
Yeah, no, and in fact, Springfield developed a whole major around it after we. So I look back, I said, there was a lot of pressure on me to make that work.
Dude, well, no pressure, because they were like, well, if he fails, no one knows about it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to overstate this just a little bit though, but you'll get where I'm going into this. What a world changer. And what I mean by that is by doing that, by you guys pioneering that, how many people have had their lives changed? That's what I mean by world changing. It has changed people's worlds. Wow. How many lives have been changed that now have gone to Springfield and gone through a strength and conditioning, like actual program, and now affected other kids and people's lives?
Right. And how many other schools now offer those programs?
Right. Yeah.
Springfield did it first, and then as schools came along, and now with all of that, you get more and more research, you get more and more more and more improvements, and it's a whole, like you said, there weren't hardly any strength and conditioning coaches back then.
Right. Well, I love that it was track coaches that did it, because wasn't the first, you probably know this, the first, I don't know if it was college strength and conditioning coach or football strength and conditioning coach, was Nebraska, and I think it was a pole vaulter who started with the football team, became their full-time.
Boyd Epling.
Yeah. I love that. I love the track background, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and not to get off the subject at all, but with the MF is everything track and field, and we also have Perform Better.
Right.
Perform Better Bill started Perform Better in 1994, and basically the products even today, you look at a Perform Better catalog. all those products, just about all of them, have had all these functional training products have backgrounds with track and field coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things. In the old days, people used to get a bunch of tires and tie a rope around their waist and start running. Now you have 29 different types of pulling sleds. And all stuff like that. The agility ladders where track coaches used to put, they still do, but they might put tape down to make an agility, back in. I could look at every product and tell you that this track coach or that track coach probably was responsible for this becoming a product at one time or another.
That's what gets me even more agitated, and there's probably stronger words I could use about these schools being dropping track and field, and opportunities being lost. And it's like, wait a minute, track and field is one of the more fundamental activities, one of the healthiest activities for our youth to be doing, one of the most inclusive activities we can be doing, not only diversity wise, male, female, black, white, Latino, doesn't matter, but also socioeconomic availability. You can almost do the sport for zero, at least up to a certain point. You can get into it for zero, that's for sure. And that the track and field coaches and the study of track and field and human performance, like, pushes football to become better, and baseball and basketball, and yet we're getting dropped. Like,
and maybe some of these upper ADs and people that are dropping these sports, maybe somebody needs to take them back into their back room and teach them what's really going on here.
Make a defensive laps or something. But
no, but I mean, they probably have no idea.
It's disappointing.
They look at track and field as still the highest participation sport in the country, right?
Yes.
I mean, and that outdoes soccer. Out of all sports, soccer, you think soccer would be, but track and field is the highest participation sport in the country among youth.
Yep.
And so it just, and when you see these sports, when you see a track team get cut because of so-called budgetary reasons, it makes no sense.
None.
I mean, at some of these schools, and we can get into every case, but some of these schools, the head football coach makes more money than it takes to run their track program.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, and I'd like to get inside the minds.
Yeah.
And hey, I sat and watched that 4 hours of the Minnesota Regents meeting on live stream. And although it came out okay, the end run came, at least there's some positive thing that came out of it.
Right.
And I'm listening to every one of those regents thinking they don't have a clue. They just don't have a clue. And
that's where I get lost.
It's maybe not their fault, but it's just, they just don't have.
On the last two cases we have here, Minnesota and Clemson. So Minnesota, first of all, I'm always ecstatic and will give kudos when someone realizes they did something wrong and they change their mind. Like Brown University, kudos to Brown. You realized you made a mistake, and so you corrected it. Minnesota realized they made a mistake and they partly corrected it. What I don't understand there is, when you look at the economics of it, what they're saving with indoor, like you might as well add indoor. Like that just doesn't make sense. And then
plus you're in Minnesota.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you're in Minnesota, first of all. By the way, the only Division I opportunity for the state of Minnesota high school kids to run Division I is at the University of Minnesota. So we almost lost any Division I opportunity for boys to run in the college level there in Minnesota. On the Clemson side, the AD, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this was in his statement, was that he is going to take the money saved, and I'm doing air quotes here, for the men's cross indoor and outdoor program and reinvest it into the rest of the Olympic sports. So he's telling us he's not saving money.
Well, yeah,
So
right.
What are you doing it for then?
And what was that, 3 years ago? They just built that brand new indoor facility down there?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
They probably
Yeah.
could have saved a few bucks off of that.
I
You
just,
know, I mean,
it just
it's just,
doesn't make
no,
sense
you
until some,
know,
I wish some AD would just come out and say, you know what, man, look, I just hate track and field, so I'm cutting it.
yeah,
I tell him he's
yeah,
wrong,
yeah,
him or her is wrong, but at
yeah,
least you're being honest. At least we can
yeah,
have an understanding with that. But when you lie
yeah,
and say it's Title IX reasons, and I tell you that Minnesota thing really blew open the whole Title IX,
yeah,
those
yeah,
fake reasons, if you will. And
yeah,
then with this Clemson thing about money, and he openly says he's going to reinvest the money into Olympic sports. First of all, for the rest of the Olympic sports, because we still will have women's track and field, plus there are other sports. I hope he
yeah,
is being truthful that money is going to
yeah.
go into women's track and some of the other sports that they have there.
But
So,
why, if you really wanted to save money, why do you just cut men's track and field? So,
right,
you
you
know,
still have
this
the
gets back to,
facilities,
yeah,
still have the
yeah.
staff, still
So,
have, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So why do, you know, why, and
Agreed. That's a good
so
point.
what are the other motives for doing that?
There's something there.
So,
We got to
but
figure it out.
you got to keep fighting. I mean, you mentioned the schools that were fighting, and on the positive note, how about William and Mary?
Yeah, that's right. Another
Fantastic.
success
I
story.
mean, they
Yeah.
just, and for the women's team to get together and say, we are not going to compete unless you reinstate the men's team was
Brave.
pretty incredible. Brave. Yeah, very brave.
I mean, literally brave.
Yeah, yeah,
We're talking about 18 to 22-year-old
yeah,
young women, right? I can't imagine. I go back to myself being in college and like, I don't know, I could have stepped up for someone else like that.
yeah,
They put their neck on the line. Bravo to them for, believing in something and
yeah,
putting
doing
their,
it, and
doing it.
because you knew they could that that president could have said, finally also said, oh, fine, we'll cut the export too.
Absolutely.
I
That's
mean, but
exactly it. I mean, that's, we
yeah,
talk about risk. So kudos
yeah.
to William Mary's women's team. Absolutely.
So there's victories out there, which is good,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah,
know,
but
and
here's the
so,
thing. We can't move forward as a sport if our victories
right,
are all about saving program. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? We got to,
yeah,
I know you know our president CEO here, David Hodge, and
yes,
I think I've said this on the podcast before, but one of the things that I learned early from him when I joined Gill about almost 15 years ago now, which is crazy to think about, is healthy things grow. So our sport, if it's going to be healthy, it has to grow. We have to be adding programs. And so it's hard for us to grow as a sport in the collegiate level if all of our energy and time and attention is spent on saving the next program.
yeah, and it's not just track and field. I mean, at last count, there were over on the collegiate level. There's been over 230,
Right.
235 sports that have been cut.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Gosh.
and so I'm getting a little afraid that they're using COVID, how bad COVID has been. It's starting to be kind of an excuse to maybe make up for the mismanagement of funds
Yes.
back in the good times.
Yeah. And it is bad. We're not taking anything away from COVID.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad going on financially. But they talk about these ADs and talking primarily on the quote unquote big school level, that they're going more and more away from, the old ADs used to be former coaches, and now the trend is going towards what they call the CEO AD.
Yeah.
Well, okay. If you're going to be a CEO AD, that means you know how to run a business. Well, that means you don't spend every dime that you make every year. You have to have contingency plans. And I don't know that anybody could have seen COVID coming, but we could have been in a much better situation in our athletic departments around the country if we'd had true CEO, true leadership at the top.
Yeah, rainy day fund.
Right. So I knew having two passionate guys like you and I would go off on tangents like that. That was not part there. There are no notes here that says talk about Clemson. Okay, let's go back to you revolutionizing strength and conditioning world.
I revolutionized.
That's right. That's right. You are doing an intern official.
I think that's overstating it a little bit. Yeah,
hey, I'm the king of overstating, baby. Come on. So you are doing a strength and conditioning internship at Syracuse.
I'm at Syracuse University. I'm doing this internship with Mike. It's great. I loved it. My whole plan was to stay in strength and development, strength and conditioning. And the plan was I was going to go back to school for my indoor eligibility, start my graduate work, then go back to Syracuse to be a GA. But at and everything was going to plan, and it was December, and coach from North Carolina State called up to Syracuse, guy named track coach by the name of Tom Jones, and said he was looking for a young guy to take over his throws program. And
Tom Jones?
Yeah, not the singer Tom Jones.
Yep.
Tom Jones. That would have been really impressive.
First of all, that you think that I think Tom Jones is the singer. But that's my number one, Tom Jones. Tom Jones went to University of Florida.
Yeah, Tom Jones.
Okay. That's how
Tom
all my heroes are track coaches, not singers like Tom Jones. Get out of here. If you're watching on YouTube, you just saw my face, how disappointed I was. Oh my.
So Tom called
he
called up the head coach of Syracuse at the time and said, hey, you know anybody? He said, I got a kid here that might want it. So I went down there for an interview and got the job. so
you didn't have any idea of being a track coach. You thought strength and conditioning,
strictly strength and conditioning. And
wow.
I was doing some powerlifting at the time too, and having some success there. So, but went down. And the only reason that position opened up, and this is going back way back, and nobody's going to remember these names, but John Chris was a very good decathlete. And he was coaching at North Carolina State. John was an Olympian, and John went out to the West Coast to continue training. And since he had to leave his position at North Carolina State, that's how that job opened up.
Give us some time frame here. What year are we talking about? Right?
This is 1982.
Okay, 82. All right.
1983. Yeah. Actually, the job started in January of 1983.
Okay.
So
you go to a beautiful part of the town, of the country, Raleigh.
Beautiful school. And
yeah.
So we Tom was the head coach. We had 3 assistants, a guy named Rusty Buchanan and Raleigh Geiger and myself.
Raleigh Geiger as an assistant.
Yeah. And so Raleigh, and then, as we got rolling a little bit, I was making $6,000 a year.
Oh my.
So as we got rolling a little bit, we, you got other jobs, so they gave, so Raleigh, what he did, he ran the mailroom on campus.
No way.
Yeah. So, and then he also, but also back, that was right at the beginning of the NCAA for women, by the way. Raleigh had all those great women cross country teams.
Right.
That was, AIAW at the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, and they put me in the mailroom in the athletic dormitory, which is kind of cool, because in '83, those guys, the Wolfpack, won the NCAA championship in basketball. Oh, well, those guys had to come in every day to get their mail.
That's pretty cool. Sure. That's cool.
But so a couple of years down there, Tom left, got the head job at UTEP. Okay. Raleigh became the head coach. I went up to took a teaching and assistant job at West Point at the military academy. And that was I look back at everything, and I always thought, everything happens for a reason, but West Point was a place where I could have easily spent a career.
That's interesting. You know Scott Richardson at Auburn University, and we've had him on the podcast. He is much. I mean, he loves Auburn. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking outside of place, but he said the same thing. West Point, there's something special. I've never been there. Something special.
And you probably don't realize it as much when you're there, or appreciate it as much when you're working there, but you start realizing how important that whole situation is, and it was like I said, I was also teaching too, so so that whole physical education idea came back around, and now I was teaching the phys ed and some of the.
Did you teach boxing?
No. I one semester they had two. They had a main teacher and another guy, an assistant teacher, and I was an assistant one time for boxing.
Because it cracks me up. Scott Richardson taught boxing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, wait, Scott, you were teaching our military how to. I was like, man, makes me think makes me a little uneasy there. So I'd have felt much better if you were the boxing.
Yeah. But it was it was a good, very good situation up there. I had some courses that all the freshmen had to take.
Mm-hmm.
So not that the guy would remember me, but you think back to some of these guys you had in class. I had the Secretary of State in class.
Is that
Pompeo?
right?
Mike Pompeo was one of the freshmen.
Wow.
I had did I have McChrystal? I had 4 or 5 generals that and it's pretty cool to think that they had to take your class at one time when they were a little complete. But
I mean, there's some amazing, I went to the greatest university in the world, Troy University.
Yes.
But there's some amazing, when you think about the Harvards and things like that, but there's something special about kids that go to the military academies. That's it's another notch up there.
The thing is, it's I always said that, and it's the West Point, and I'm not speaking for the other academies, because the saying goes that there's several service academies, but only one military academy. So
I love the rivalry. That's awesome.
I just lost that Navy account.
Remember, we're not trying to lose business here, Rob. I know you're on your way out, buddy, but I got some more years to put in here. Come on now.
But
special.
Yeah, I always say it was the toughest academic school in the world, and then on top of it, you had to put in the military aspect of everything, and to get out of there was pretty neat for those kids.
So you were teaching some physical ed. Were you coaching track?
Yeah. I was. Okay. I was. Ron Basil was the head coach at the time. The staff was myself and Jack Warner. Jack.
Yeah.
So and Big Jack's dad was a coach at Cornell at the time, and at the time it was the HEPS conference with all the Ivy League schools, West Point and the Naval Academy.
Yeah, I remember
that was
hearing
the HEPS
about
conference. Yeah. So so it was Ron, myself, and Jack, and then I had a chance to go to Kent State, and I remember at the time I was thinking I wanted to be in a scholarship situation. Kent had a great tradition in the throws. So I went there. A couple of years later, Jack went over to Ohio State and stayed at Kent State till 95 95. So
from Kent State to MF, or are we back up to there?
Yeah.
How was your time at Kent State? I'm a fellow.
Great.
I coached Ball States. I have a lot.
I was going to say you were. Yeah, I was MAC conference. When I got to Kent State in 1989, I was assistant coach. First thing I did, I took all the results of the Mid-American Conference Championships, and I plugged them into the Big Ten Championships, and it wasn't even close. Not even close. I mean, the MAC was at such a higher level at the time, with only the limit on men's scholarships in the MAC was 8. You could only have 8 scholarships. You weren't at the max of 12 and a half. The limit was 8. And on the women's side, I think it was 12 or 12 and a half or something like that. But those men's teams were powerful. I mean, every school had somebody. I mean, it usually was Kent had a great tradition in the throws, but of course, Eastern Michigan and Western Michigan and Central and Miami of Ohio, and the coaches that were at these schools in Ball State, Joe Rogers was at Ball State, and he had some unbelievable jumpers at the time, and they were pretty competitive. And I the other thing, when I moved to Ohio, I really got to enjoy the state, Northeast Ohio, and really enjoyed that. So the couple of years after that, the head coach left. I became head coach, and we had a few good years there. And then through all this, I was doing all these camps and clinics with Bill Falk and everything. And offered me a job at MF, and
So
that is it in a nutshell.
There's a reoccurring theme through a lot of the stops and knowing what you've done with the NTCA and the camps and clinics through MF. Teaching is kind of this reoccurring theme throughout, whether it's teaching as a coach, whether it's teaching at the military academy, teaching, speaking at camps and clinics, which you do a lot of. That seems to be kind of this anchor for everything you've done.
One thing at Springfield, and what I always thought what set Springfield apart from other physical education schools, and I'm sure other people are doing this now, but you had to take skill courses in virtually every athletic endeavor. And the skill courses were regular credit courses. They weren't, you had to take a basketball course. It was a regular basketball course, but they were courses that taught you how to coach. So so if you took the track and field course, you had to take it. You didn't have a choice. You take a track and field course, you go through every event, and you had to learn the event, and also they put you on the spot, and you had to teach your classmates. So it was a lot of hands-on stuff, and I remember being times that was like being a nervous wreck just in front of 2 or 3 of my classmates. Never mind a whole whole group of people. Yeah, but that was when I got out. I appreciated that a lot more once I got out.
You've been involved in a lot of different aspects, from on the private sector business side, coach, speaker, clinic. Do you have I don't want to necessarily call it a favorite, but is there one you kind of enjoyed more than the other?
No, I think everybody. I think I always have this belief: you're where you are. You're where you are. You're where you're at.
Yeah.
And there's no. I mean, it's nice to do this, and we kind of reminisce a little bit, but there's not too much reason to look back at what you did, and you just keep kind of move forward, and everything happens for a reason.
I like that. Two things that made me think of what you just said there. One is you talked about looking back, and it's not always the right thing to do. I think about it as people think about regrets, like, oh, I used to do this, I used to do that, and I have this saying, I'm sure I stole it from someone. In your car, the rear view mirror is this size for a reason versus your whole front windshield. Looking back puts a crick in your neck. So we don't need to look in the rear view mirror more than we are looking in our windshield forward. So I like that, not necessarily looking back.
Yeah.
I like that. And then I love, something that I talked
apologize. I'm just changing out my my AirPods here.
Yeah, I was filling the dead air, so no one had to know that.
No, I was listening. I was just, I got to say, I'm deaf. I'm disabled. I'm deaf in my left ear. I've been like that ever since I was a kid.
Is that right?
So the good thing about AirPods, good thing about AirPods, I just have to, I can only have to use one. Yeah.
Oh,
and so Mike Wojcik was deaf in the same ear. So we were both deaf in
Really?
we were both totally deaf in the left ear. And we for about a year we were walking. We'd always be walking. I don't know if we'd always be walking, trying to get on each other's good side. And he finally looked at me one time and said, "What the hell are you doing?" And I went through, I'm deaf in my left ear. I'm trying to get on my good side. He goes, "I'm the same way." He said, "So here's what we're going to do. Since you're the coach and I'm the athlete, since I'm the coach and you're the athlete, you have to walk backwards while I walk forwards."
Thinking of it as a training exercise.
Yeah, exactly. Learn to move in the backwards direction. That's right. That way we can always hear each other.
That's funny. I love that you two found each other and you both had that sameness there. I love that.
Yeah.
Something else you said, though, I don't want to gloss over. I think it's extremely important. And I have this conversation with a lot of coaches. One of the things that you and I get to do that we're extremely blessed is we basically talk to coaches all day, every day of our life. I mean, what a blessing. So one of the conversations I have a lot of times, you talked about where you are is where you are. And, you know, sometimes as coaches, we're so selfless. We want to affect the whole world. That's a lot of times the reason why we want to be the head coach at a Big Ten or, you know, Power 5 school, because we want to affect more people, or, you know, that's the only way we're going to be president of this organization, or et cetera. However, I think that whether you are in Springfield, Massachusetts, Orlando, Florida, New York City, Mahomet, Illinois, you know, big city, small city, big school, small school, assistant coach, head coach, it doesn't matter. You have the opportunity to affect positively right there where you are. And that is just as important, because if everybody did that, if everybody took care and did positive things where they are right now, well, then globally, that would be such a huge impact. So I love that you said that where you are is where you are.
Well, that's, you know, that was fantastic what you just said, Mike. You know, I tell coaches all the time, it's not always greener on the other side of the pasture too, you know. There is absolutely nothing wrong, and actually there's a lot of benefits to it, to being at some small private NAIA school or junior college or Division III school that you know is a great place to live, that your family, you know, that your family loves being at, that the community is fantastic. If you find a spot like that, and you find yourself in a spot like that, stay there. You know, just stay, do everything you can to stay there, because it's you got to find the best situation for yourself.
Well, I know, having worked with you on different situations, different, you know, opportunities with coaches, I know you believe in this, that, you know, your ego is not driven by the name on the jersey for the coach. Your ego is serving coaches, because those guys and gals serve athletes, and that's what ultimately how you got into this whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you know, you try to listen. I know, me and you are talking. I'm probably doing more talking than you are, but
that's good.
You know, the people always ask me, what's the most important aspect of your job? I said, you got to listen.
Yes.
You just listen to people and take a legitimate, whether you're coaching or you know, doing this. You have to take a legitimate interest in other people's welfare. So and so you do some, you know, that means, you know, do some research into that coach's family. And I'm not saying a background check or something like that, but you should, you know, if you're talking to XYZ coach at XYZ university, you should have an idea of what their kids are doing. Not only their athletes, but maybe their own children. Maybe their own children are involved too. Maybe they'll know a little bit about their family. And you find, as you do this, you become more interested. You know, and when you become more interested, it just expands your knowledge, and expands what ultimately you're trying to do.
Yeah, when you become more interested, you become more interesting.
Yeah, it's a good, truly.
Well, as we start to wrap up, Rob, I got two more subjects.
We're wrapping up already?
You know,
we talked about Clemson and
did not see that one coming. So
we got to make this good, by the way. I got a bet out there that we're going to have double the downloads.
That's right.
Of your best person. So,
which, you know, Judd Logan is right up there, by the way. So good luck.
And by the way, I just lost to Nate Logan in the Masters pool.
Did you?
The Logan family has a golf pool, and for every major championship, I won the U.S. Open. So I was bragging. I was on top of my game, and me and Whitney, I was second at the PGA, or I won the PGA. I was second at the U.S. Open of the Logans, and Nate, the little wiener, beat me in this a former Gill employee.
Yeah, he was.
People don't know Nate. Nate Logan is Judd Logan's son.
He was my very first hire here at Gill Athletics.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little bit like you hit the home run and then it's all downhill after that. Nate was such, not only, because what Nate brings is not just his own, he's a super smart kid. It's hard to call him a kid anymore, I guess. But
I know.
He's a father and, he's a super smart person, a person of so much character. And then he has this, I don't know, it's culture really from the Logan family that, he's just been steeped in. And it was such a blessing for me to work with him for, just over a year or so.
And he's taken, obviously, what he learned at Gill, he's taken on to his prior position now.
No, he has overcome what I taught him.
See, you just don't give him any more golf picks.
Yeah, well,
future pools.
You don't have to worry about that for me. Not at all. Well, pause golf, because that's actually
okay.
You've done so much. It's really amazing to hear the stories and the places and the stories of Michelle Carter's. I mean, those are so awesome. You've been involved in so many different aspects. What are some of the standout, whether it's performances or coaching aspect, what's just some things of all the track that you've seen and been involved in, what's been like some really awesome memories for you?
Well, the best from a track and field standpoint, the best memory I have was '96 Olympics. Okay. Because I was down in Atlanta for over 200 days that year.
Wow.
And we had USATF work. I was working for MF. I was doing some work for the organizing committee down there, and to be down there and having the U.S. team do such a great job down there, and that first night was the U.S. we got 1-2 in the shot, which was fantastic, with Brandy Bonds and John Gadina, and you're right there. And then the next final was was the 10,000 meters later that night, and I always loved watching the 10,000 meters.
Really?
I had a streak at the NCAAs that it was for like 18 years that I always watched the 10,000 meters. It just
that might be the most shocking thing I've heard all day. No offense to my 10K people, but oh my goodness.
But so I had known Billy Mills a little bit. I saw him. He called me over, said, "There, sit with me." And I'm thinking, I'm sitting with Billy Mills watching the 10,000 meters at the Olympic game. But that whole day, and actually later that night was when they had the bombing at the Centennial Park. But that whole day in and day out experience at the Olympics was fantastic. I think the greatest event, and I'll be very biased with this, the greatest event ever was the shot put competition at the last World Championships. When
this
past one, and every statistic can prove it, that it was not only the greatest shot put competition of all time, not only the greatest field event competition of all time, it was the greatest track and field event of all time.
Wow.
As far as all the stats go.
Right.
And there's other ones that are up there, like the 68 Olympic trials and the 100 meters, and some other things in there. Right. But to have four guys really, the kid from Brazil breaks the world championships record 3 times. He broke it 3 times and he ended up 4th.
Wow.
For Joe and Ryan and Tom Walsh to do what they did, that was just incredible.
What is it? You've seen this for such a long time. The shot put for America, specifically the men's, although, we definitely have had women shot putters and discus and things like that. But the men's shot put has been almost like the men's 110 meter hurdles, or even the men's 100, like not only have we always, I'm doing air quotes, but, always had one of the top guys out there, but we always have 2 to 3 to 4 sometimes. What is it about that event specifically?
I don't know exactly. I think a lot of it's just tradition, and you asked me before how I first got him really interested in throwing, or just interested in track, the '68 Olympics. I remember watching, and that was probably the greatest U.S. track team of all time, perhaps. But I don't remember too much about it. And so '72, I remember watching every event, every sport, every minute it was on TV. And back '68, the U.S. did so good, and then the Eastern Bloc countries said, "Well, we can't have that anymore."
Right.
And so they really started establishing themselves in '72. And one of those events was the shot put was George Woods, a Southern Illinois guy. George Woods was back in those days. They had, wherever there was a record, there was a flag placed down. Okay, so the Olympic record was there was a flag placed down, and George hit the top of the flag on his fifth throw. It might have even been his sixth throw. So you think if you hit the top of the flag, it's a low flag like so. Right. You hit the top of the flag, it's gonna be the Olympic record.
Right.
So, well, which the Olympic record was set previously in the competition by this guy named Komar from Poland. Okay. And George, everybody gathered around. All these officials gathered around, and they ended up measuring it. They said it was one millimeter short of the Olympic record. So George really got screwed out of that Olympic gold medal.
Wow. Yeah.
And Komar, who was was a fantastic guy, but Poland at the time was a communist country. So, and I just remember that. I always remember that. And to go there, to you have George Woods and Al Furbeck and Brian Oldfield and Hal Connolly was still thrown out at that time, Al Schotterman and Ed Burke and everybody involved, all the three, Jay Sylvester and Order. And I remember thinking, wow, this is just great. From watching these events, that's great. Then later in life, getting to know a lot of these guys, right, and having the opportunity to call some of them friends is fantastic. So push that forward to '96, and '96 was great. And then you asked about how come the men's doing. I think nowadays that all these all these events, the depth of competition is getting so fantastic, amazing. And there's a couple reasons. I think that one is because of the YouTube generation. You can see what other people are doing. There's access to information is a lot easier. I think there's a lot of young and unbelievably great coaches out there in all events, but I'm with it for the sake of the conversation, the throws. And you look at these coaches, they're very knowledgeable, they're good coaches, they're hungry, and they're very competitive. We like to think we were competitive, or at least I would like to think we were competitive back in the day, but we weren't competitive like these guys are. And there's still some of the older coaches still in there too, but it just, so you got this, and then you add in there, and I'll kudos to Gil and MF Athletic. The technology of the equipment has gotten better, just like in golf. The Javelins are unbelievable. Yeah. And the discuses, and even something as simple as a shot put. Back, you had a shot put, you had a 16-pound ball. You didn't know what size it was, just as long as it was 16 pounds.
Right, yeah.
Now you have all kinds of different makes and models and sizes and diameters. Yeah. So and when you get into the discus situations, you have wind tunnels. Same thing with the javelins. And the hammers, the hammers are made so much better than they were 40 years ago or whatever. The swivels are so much better. The wires are so much better. So you add the technology to the YouTube generation and access information to the great coaching, and that's why you have this whole depth of tremendous depth depth in every event.
Right.
It might be a little bit better in the shot put, but look at, if you're looking at just the U.S., you're looking at look at the women's hammer, look at the and then of course, like you mentioned, Michelle in the shot put, the women's shot is coming along. Just about every event is really coming along. Maybe the men's javelin may be lacking a little bit compared to worldwide, but that's going to change in a hurry, because you talked about why aren't we adding things, adding sports, adding events. Well, how many states have added the javelin in the last 3 years?
Isn't that exciting?
That's incredible. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yes.
That's a big deal. And we're getting people to add the hammer too. I mean, that's a big deal. And I like to think in their small pod, in our little small pod, companies like MF Athletic and Gill Athletics, and had something to do with that.
I love the passion of the men and women. Like you talked about the hammer, these little, I shouldn't call them little, but these pockets of places that, pick up the hammer, Atlanta with Mike Judge, up in the Washington area has had a lot of hammer throwing for quite a while. California has had a lot of high school hammer throwing going on. We've had some here in the Chicagoland area. I love that they don't let the lack that it's a high school event stop them from teaching people this great event. Because it's, to me, the hammer, that's my favorite throwing event. I love the hammer.
Yeah. The hammers, and you mentioned it, these pockets of places, and I think these pockets of coaching all over. I mean, there's always these guys, there's 5 or 6 guys and ladies in Pennsylvania that they work with a lot. It doesn't matter what schools they're at. They work with a lot of, you got guys in, these are all guys, but you got Mike Casbini in Zanesville and was at Zanesville High School with Wayne Clark. Well, Mike retired, and every Sunday forever, he has whoever wants to come and throw. He meets and throws, and he probably has 40 or 50 kids out there every Sunday. And I don't know what he's doing now with the COVID thing, but and so then you go to the state meet, in Ohio, and there's 5 or 6 kids there or more that Mike has had an influence in it. There's 5 or 6 kids or more that Mike Pelton up in the Toledo area that has had an influence. And you go again. Pennsylvania, look at a guy like Glenn Thompson. I mean, he had world-class athletes for that, but there's 4 or 5, 6 guys in Pennsylvania, in all these states. Illinois is the same way. I mean, the Jim Akins and Roger Einbachers and Bob Niles and
I love
Dan
that.
McQuaid's. I mean, those guys are just,
Dan.
You can't. I mean, they're fantastic, and it just. That's why we're at where we are right now.
Yeah, these pockets of passion that happen.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about, you go into that Wednesday night all comers meet. If you wouldn't have started going to that, and if you wouldn't have picked up a shot put there, I mean, who knows? You'd have gone on to do other great things, but not maybe necessarily in this great sport. So
if I didn't foul out in the javelin, I might have been throwing 97 meters.
I thought you said 97 feet, but okay.
I had a crappy javelin, and I don't know who made it at the time.
Man, way back then, we might have been the only ones making javelins back then, man.
Oh boy! So I'll tell you a quick story about when I was traveling around with Bill in the early days of my employment with MF, we'd go every place together. So I had the opportunity to be with him a lot and learn a lot from him. But he always, he'd always call them the Gill guys, David Hodge and Fred Dixon. And whenever we saw him, Bill would just light up. Oh, it's the Gill guys. The Gill guys are here. And then he'd call him over wherever we were, call him over, and he'd get all excited. And that's how I got to know David and Fred quite well. But Bill was he was always, at that time, I think we had this conversation before, Gil, during the summer, during the slow times, Gil used to paint, because they had the painting apparatus to do this. They used to paint bumpers for, I think it was either Ford or Chevy.
I didn't know you knew that.
Oh, I knew that. I knew all that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm moving the phone around on you.
Yeah, little known secret. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, they used to put down, and so Bill was always really rooting for Gil to keep moving forward and pressing on, and look at Gil now. You got all these employees, you got yourself, and you got this beautiful. I tell you, if anybody's ever in Urbana or Champaign area, you got to get down to the Gil factory. It's just a fantastic.
It is a lot of fun.
It is a fantastic place.
I was explaining it's like the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for track and field.
Yeah, I know. You go in there, and then and you acquire Porter on top of it. And it just keeps going and going and going. And we get back to the technology. Even this year, look at some of the things that you guys are coming out with this year, and I know you're doing some things in coordination with MF too, on some products. They're just the technology that you keep moving, pressing forward. That's why people have to get involved and stay in track and field to get to see all this great technology going on.
You're talking about entrepreneurs and innovators, and, it does make me think of Bill Falk. And, I actually never got to meet Bill. However, you talk about someone who had influence over more people than he even knew. Growing up, when I first started getting into coaching, I was a high school coach before I went to the college level, and I remember the how-to video, or come to discus practice,
the VHS,
yeah, and all of the camps and clinics that he did, down in Miami and up in Rhode Island. I think what an impact he made on our sport, and maybe he doesn't get enough credit for it, to be real frank.
No, unbelievable. I mean, and to have the opportunity to travel around with him, and room with him, and it was just incredible. There were times I remember years we were doing 5 or 6 pole vault and throws camps together during the summer, and then we'd do 20 to 30 clinics. We were doing clinics all over the place, and we'd always combine the pole vault with the throws. So but because of that, I got you got to talk to Bill constantly. He was like the constant teacher, always teaching, always telling you, not telling you what to do. He was always, explaining how to do it and how to do it properly. And that was from, people laugh at my ability to pack boxes now. Oh, that was from Bill. Bill and Eric taught me how to pack boxes. And now I'm very proficient at it. So when I retire,
no one knows what we do for a job. This is what we do.
I'm coming to Gil just to pack boxes.
Hey, we're actually, here's something exciting. No one else, everybody else, you could just tune out. You're not going to find Rob will find this exciting. We're revamping back in our shipping department right now for small packages and stuff like that. So a few years ago, we bought this, one of the coolest machines we have, in my opinion. And it's crazy because we have a lot of cool machines. We build pole vault poles, javelins, all this crazy stuff, right? We built a box making machine. So we used to buy boxes in their sizes, and then when we'd make a new product or whatever, we'd have to make it fit into an existing box. Well, we bought this machine. So now we buy pallets of just flat corrugated cardboard, and it feeds into this machine. And it literally sounds like something from Willy Wonka's chocolate. Like it makes the sound. And you plug your little code in there, and it spits out boxes to the size you want. Yeah, it's the coolest thing in the world, man.
Are you kidding me?
No, it's
wow.
It's like this big cardboard gets fed into the machine, and out comes box. It's so crazy that of all the things we have, I think this is the coolest thing. But we're revamping.
Well, every time who makes a lot of those, not all of them, but who makes a lot of that cardboard is the craft companies. So every time you buy something, you're helping out the Patriots.
Is that right? Oh,
Yeah,
well,
that's where Kraft made all his money.
As a non-NFL guy, I don't care, but I did not know it was him. Interesting. Huh.
So, but so give me your since we're rolling on here, give me your best travel story.
Oh man.
Oh, either worst travel story or best travel story.
Well, as I got later on in my career here, and I've been so blessed to go to so many great track meets and go to so many, like I've seen a lot of cool events. I've seen Ryan Krauser throw, stupid far, and seen a lot of, very happy to see world records when Ashton Eaton set world records.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And for a long time, I've been really good friends with a young man. He's an old man now, Justin Gatlin. So to see Justin through his career and actually to be able to see his races have been pretty special. But I got to a point in my career several years ago where, I didn't have to be at that track meet if I didn't have to be at that track meet. And I remember being at the Texas Relays one year, and it was during the early, Wednesday or Thursday, it was still the decathlon, and it was it's Austin. So it's just pouring rain, right? And so I'm just in my hotel room working. I can work anywhere. So I'm just working. And my wife calls me and she's like, oh, she goes, I assume you're at the track. And I was like, oh no. And we were FaceTiming. So I showed, the outside my window, staying in one of the high rise hotels, and it's downpouring. She goes, well, don't you need to be at the track? I was like, oh, no. The coaches, they need to be at the track. I go, tomorrow or later on tonight, when it's a little drier, they'll still be there. I'll get to see them. But I ain't going out in the pouring rain. They don't want to talk to me when the sun's shining. They certainly don't want to talk to me when it's raining. Absolutely.
Well, I remember you guys, you and a couple of other guys, you'd be setting up stuff for meets and 100 degrees out and sweat be pouring off you. Thinking, I don't want that job.
Dude, I love that we're the NCAA sponsor. I mean, it's my heart, right? I mean, I was a long-time college coach, and I just have such an affinity for track coaches, but specifically college. And so I'm so happy that we get to at every Division I, Division II, and Division III national championships. It's our equipment.
Yeah.
But you do not know, you've seen it. The work that goes in before and after that meet is not my forte at all. Let me tell you.
People just see the end product, but I've seen you guys plugging away and all the setting up. I could pack a box if you want me to, but that's about it.
And Austin is the worst at that case because it is 100 degrees every time we're there, man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's never a perfect day out when you're setting up, right?
No.
Did you ever have any? How about stories outside of track? Any interesting travel stories there?
Mine aren't very interesting. I'm like the worst. I'm a heads down. When I travel,
very non-social.
To the point. Because it never fails. You'll know this. It never fails when I'm out of the office. So when I am not at a computer to either send somebody something or do something or look something up, that is when everybody calls and emails. So, I'll be in a plane for 4 hours going across the country or whatnot, and I'll land and like 30 emails will pop up, and I'm like, holy! I'm not even at the hotel yet to get that. So it's just builds on. So I'm more of a, during layovers, one of the smartest things I ever did was get an Admirals Club membership. To the Admirals Club, fire up the computer, knock things out. And now with, I'm a big social media guy. So I'm always in contact in some form or fashion. So,
which is good, but I started before the internet or before email and before cell phones. Internet. Before cell phones.
Hey, how did you? Now that's a good question. How did you do that? You know what I mean?
When you had a show, what you used to do if you had to get a quote for somebody, you'd run over to the phone, a pay phone, call the office, and find a number that they could fax it to you, whether you're at a hotel or whatever. That's what we used to do. And so you can get a quote to somebody, right away if you needed it that way.
I mean,
of course you could handwrite it too, but we used to, Bill, we used to handwrite all our orders. There was a time that Bill Falk
Bill Falk had perfect handwriting. He hand wrote all the shipping labels. And
the shipping labels.
Shipping labels. It was amazing.
I mean, I look at the automation we have now, you know, like when MF puts an order in with us for one of the customers, you know, it goes in, it spits it out to the back. If we've already made it, it goes and gets shipping labels, get printed up all on their own, everything, right? So another person who's retiring soon is Miss Sherry Hersey. And I know you know Sherry Hersey, yeah.
She is. I was going to ask you about Sherry.
You know, Sherry's been here 33, 34. Yeah.
He's seen it all, like Gil.
Yeah, I asked her, I'm like, hey, Sherry, so how did we do it back in the day? Like, I don't understand. You know, when email goes down now, we all freak out. It's like, well, we can't do any work. You guys did everything without cell phones, email. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, I can't fathom that world at all.
Pages. Did you have pages?
Like, did you chisel everything in stone? Was that a purchase order?
I didn't have a contract with MF, but that would have been in my contract, not to have a pager. I do not want a pager.
Yeah, man.
But no, you speak of those. I'll give you three quick stories.
Please.
I'll give you 10 stories. I'll give you 3 quick stories. You mentioned the Admiral's Club. I always would fly Continental. So I was in Las Vegas for something. I had to go to South Dakota. I had a red-eye flight with a layover for a couple hours in Chicago for some reason. At that time, Continental had a very small President's Club in there in Chicago. So I went in there. I was the only one in there, and there was one person at the desk. So I went in there, started watching TV. I'm sitting there for a few minutes, and somebody that looked kind of important came in, and he said to me, "Can you move here? Can you move someplace else? We got somebody coming in." And I said, "Do you want me to leave or whatever?" And plus, I look like I had hair back then. I probably was sleeping on the plane. I was all, I was a mess. And he said, just the TV area. So I leave there. 30 seconds later, President Bush walks in. The first President Bush. Now, this was like in 98. This was like in 98. So he's out doing some speaking things.
Wow.
So he's watching TV. I'm sitting at the desk. So you got the Secret Service guy, President Bush, myself, the lady behind the desk. I thought, that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
No cell phones or anything, so I couldn't call anybody and
go take a picture real quick.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But after a while, I had to go catch my flight, and I had to go to the bathroom. So to get to the bathroom, you had to kind of go around this corner down this hallway, and I had gotten up. I go around the corner, and who do I walk right into is President Bush, because he was coming out. And so I said, "It's an honor to meet you, et cetera, et cetera." And he responded to me. He said, if you need to use the stall, there's somebody in there. But if you want to use the urinal, it's free. The urinal is free. Like, I was going to the bathroom. I said, in fact, I have to use the urinal. So I go into the bathroom, and it's a small place, right? There's a sink, there's a urinal, and a stall. The guy in the stall was a Secret Service guy. So he comes out. His name was Tony. I remember that. His name, Tony Leaves.
Wow.
Who comes into the stall? President Bush. So I'm at the sink. I'm at the urinal. President Bush is on the toilet. I'm so nervous I can't go. So I'm standing there for a long time. Immediately. And I'm thinking, a million things go through your mind, like, this is just another guy. And then you say, well, he was the most powerful guy in the world, probably. And then finally, after a few minutes, after a while, I said, and I can't go to the bathroom now. I can't stand here and listen to the president go to the bathroom. So I left. was my President Bush.
I feel like that would not happen today. I feel like they would, like, no one would be
No.
they would clear it all out and all that stuff.
Yeah, this was all pre 9/11.
Right. Oh yeah, that changed everything. That's a good point.
Let's see. I was in Cleveland once. Second story, I was in Cleveland going down to New Orleans, and I was in because me and you are important people, we get to fly first class with sometimes.
Let me tell you, it's not.
I got upgraded to first class, and there's all these kids around, minority kids, and I go into my seat, and they're all sitting in first class, and they're all about 16, 17, maybe less, and they're jumping up and down. They're just driving the flight attendants crazy. Well, turns out the guy sitting next to me was kind of there in control of them, and the guy sitting on the other side of me were the bosses, and who it was Death Row Records. And
no way.
So I was sitting with Tupac.
Shut
I
up.
didn't know who Tupac was at the time.
Now this is much more impressive than Bush to me. Are you serious?
Tupac,
That's way cool.
Yeah, so we hit it off well, me and Tupac. And Suge Knight was on the other side, so we're talking. Meanwhile, they're screaming at the kids to shut up.
You don't mess with Suge Knight.
Yeah.
You don't mess with him.
No, I'm thinking these guys are these are the nicest guys in the world.
You had no clue who they were.
No, I heard of Death Row Records, but I didn't know who they were.
That makes it even.
So they're telling me who they are, and oh, great. And we get down, we talked the whole way. He offered me backstage tickets to his concert, but I couldn't make it. I actually would have gone, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
And Suge Knight was great, and when I look back at that, and it was like 3 months later, Tupac got shot and got killed.
Oh wow, is that right?
And now Suge Knight's in jail for murder or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think he's that good of a dude.
Yeah.
A guy who always ends up in jail is not a good dude.
I can't tell you how nice they were to me on the plane.
That's so cool.
I was the only white guy in first class. Everybody else, all like their managers and all those people, were in the back cabin.
Right.
But,
see, you always one up me. My only story is that I'm friends with Vanilla Ice, and I'm sorry, but Tupac
That's right.
Death Row is way cooler. Yeah, but Tupac and them are way cooler than Rob. So.
Oh, nice. The last one and the most important one, I had never missed a flight in my life. And just happened I was leaving out of Cleveland. I just happened to miss a flight. And again, back in those days, it wasn't a big deal. You just got in the next one. I was going to Florida for the Florida ADs conference. And I got on the plane, and a woman walked out by me, and we made eye contact, and we fly down to Tampa, and I meet this woman, same one. We start talking and we start talking in baggage claim, and she says to me that she was going over to Clearwater. Now we're in Tampa. She says to me, I'm going over to Clearwater to visit some friends. And I said, how are you going to get over there? And she said, well, I was just going to take a shuttle or something. I said, you want to ride? Not that I was going to Clearwater. And she said, yes. Now, one, could you imagine saying yes to me for a ride?
Stranger danger.
I dropped her off. We went on a date later that day, next day, and that became my future wife.
Shut up.
And that was, yeah. So the background to that story is that if I never missed that flight, if I've never missed that flight, I wouldn't have met my wife,
dude,
that day. And then on top of it, her dad, she's from a military family. Her dad was an Air Force vet, died early in life, died when he was 51 years old. And so this was her dad's birthday. that he was passed away, but this was her dad's birthday. So I was a gift to my wife from her father.
Dude, that is the greatest story I have ever heard.
Oh yeah. No, that's actually what happened. We
think about what you said earlier about where you are is where you are.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
could have been upset, stressed, etc., because you missed your flight and all that, and yet here's what happens: you meet your wife.
Yeah,
dude.
And it turned out we just lived over next town over from in Ohio, so it wasn't like we were from basically just a few miles apart, and that's how that.
I love that. That is,
yeah.
I mean, my wife and I have been married. Go ahead.
It's better than the 2-pack story.
100% better. 100% better. My wife and I have been married for about 12 years now, and we love hearing about other people's stories and how they met and for marriages that last a long time, because that's, we strive for that. So that's, I can't wait to get home and tell my wife about that. That's such an awesome story.
To add to that story, I got so we headed off, and I said, "Can I pick? We'll go out for a date the next night." And so I had a rental car. So I'm at the Marriott Hotel in Tampa, and I go out and to get the rental car and to go over to Clearwater to pick Mary up. And they give me keys, and they had a valet give me keys, and we go over there, and I'm coming back to the hotel later that night, and I'm looking around in the car, and there's things other than what you would see in a rental car, like baby things, and I looked around thinking,
did you steal someone's car?
Yeah, they gave me the keys to the wrong car, so we had, and I didn't hit. You know how it is. You get a rental car, half the time you're not even paying attention what color
it is. Yeah,
you go. So the valet guys gave me the wrong keys, and all I could think about was, Jesus, somebody's looking for that car.
Dude,
so my first date with my future wife was in a stolen car, I think.
How long have you guys been married?
We've been married since 2001.
I hope those years of marriage have been easier than the first date. No stolen cars, no missed flights.
No, that was really
dude, that was awesome.
That's a story.
I'm glad you let that at third too, because it would just be downhill, honestly. And Bush was third in that hierarchy. That is awesome, man. I love hearing that. Rob, man, I can't say thank you enough.
Hey, by the way,
yes.
Speaking of elections, how did the elections go in Champaign, knowing that you were a judge?
Yeah.
And verifying signatures and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was a commissioned election judge this year. So I did the signature verification before November 3rd. And that was, this is my first time. So, I didn't vote until 2016, my whole life. That was my first time ever voting. So it's not like I've been some big political advocate my whole life. And so this year it was a lot about, I wanted to give back and help others. And I knew that, a lot of people would be voting this election. And then I also knew with the pandemic that, some elderly who normally serve as election judge may not feel comfortable. So I wanted to, step up, and much like our track officials, we need more young people. And so the signature verification was pretty non-scientific. You got 3 of you, and you're like, yep. I loved it when it was easy. There was
not a big controversy going in.
No. There were three types of signatures verifying. That was the dead obvious, the guy or the gal that always signs their name the exact same way. That was the easy ones. There were a lot of times actually it was when the woman had just gotten married and has changed her name.
Oh yeah.
So the names so it was obvious they didn't match up. So those were, there was just some, it was dead obvious that they were the right signature, and there was dead obvious that they were not the same signature. It was the middle ground that sucked, right? You would like, well, the R and the L looks right, but this time he didn't go Sorsa. He just went soar and a line. And so the good news was, if you rejected them, they got a chance to come back and make up. Like, it wasn't like you just didn't get counted. But then on election day, let me tell you what, that is if you voted this year, and maybe more apt when you go to vote next time, tell those election judge, thank you. So I had to be at the polling site at 5 a.m, which isn't that big of a deal. I've had flights earlier than that, so the early side didn't matter. But then you have a lot of processes and procedures to set up all the equipment and be ready at 6, when that's typically, at least for where I was, that was when we had the most people. People wanted to knock it out right off the bat before they went into work. But then it's all day. The poll opened at 6 a.m. The poll closed at 7 p.m. There's no lunch break. You're not allowed to leave the poll site, but my wife brought me some Jimmy John's or whatnot. So I got to go into the corner and eat like a little rat. Like, I'm just trying to chow down this sandwich real quick. There's people there was not a single time where there wasn't someone in the polling location. So you're always up and trying to help people to get to places. And then at 7 p.m. you close down, and it takes a good hour and a half to 2 hours to do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. One of the weirdest parts for me, I figured, when the ballots go into the tabulator, I'll never see those ballots again, like official people now, right? But we had to, there's write-in candidates for president, right? And the machine tells you how many, we had 2 machines, tells you how many write-in candidates were entered in each machine. You have to go find those ballots physically. Because you have to go actually get those ballots and make sure that because the machine can't read the name. It just says, we can tell that someone wrote here, so it's a write-in candidate. And you can only be a write-in candidate if you do certain things, like you have to signatures. And Kanye West found out all about this, because he thought you could just get on the ballot by just being Kanye, and you had to actually do things, right? So you had to go find these ballots and then make sure, were they on the list, because you get a list of the people that did all the proper things they were allowed to do to be a write-in candidate.
So if they wrote somebody in that didn't do all the proper things to be a candidate, so you would just have to reject that vote, or not the whole ballot, right?
It would just go as no vote.
Yeah.
So you didn't pick Trump or Biden or Joe Jorgensen. I think maybe it was the independent. There was like 5 or 6 printed on the ballot. If you wrote Mike Cunningham on there, because Mike Cunningham didn't do the right things, it would just be like, oh, you wasted your vote. There's no vote was even cast for that person.
I think I wrote Mike Cunningham.
Yeah, well, you got
when it says, when it says, Joe Biden so many percent, Donald Trump so many percent, then it had that less than 1%. That's my vote.
I'm afraid I wouldn't even have gotten a 0.001. It would not even have counted, right? But we had to go into this machine, and we served 770 people that day. So let's call it split. The 2 machines had roughly 350, each one. We had to go get these 350 ballots. The 4 of us, these 3 sweetest old ladies in the world, and then me, were on the floor. And I'm talking about, they were 70 plus, man. They'd been around for elections. Okay. We're all sitting on the floor at 9 o'clock at night. We'd been there since 5 a.m, looking for these needles in a haystack, looking for these 4 ballots. And I remember just, you're tired. You're tired. You're everything. And I remember I said it out loud. I was like, you know what? I go, there's no 3 other people in this world. I'd rather be sitting on the floor in the middle of our park district looking for needles in a haystack than you 3 ladies right now. So we get all the paperwork done, and then you got to take everything back to the clerk's office. And I volunteered for that. I don't know why, I just did, but I thought it would be fast. I'm like, oh, you just drive in, they take all the stuff out of your car, peace, see you later, have a good night, right? Well, I forget that, we had 80, I think, poll places in our county. Well, all 80 people are driving there at the same time. So now at 10:30 at night, I'm in a traffic jam at the clerk's office, waiting to get to drop everything off. So
I don't know about this. I'm contesting every vote.
Yeah. Well, it's Illinois, so there was really no. It's not a swing state at all, man. It just goes blue.
Hey, I'm contesting the vote for the local dog catcher. For
So I was up at 4 a.m. and then out, say 4:30. I didn't get home till 11 o'clock that night, and it was.
Are you kidding me?
Constant. I've done I'm not the most athletic guy. I didn't do I ran track and things like that, but but I'm not the most athletic guy. The next day, so I can't, I took a vacation day so I could work as the election.
Yeah.
The next day on Wednesday, I came into the office and I wish I had taken a vacation day that day. I am beat up.
Man.
My ankles, my knees, my back, not my back so much, but just, you're standing. It's standing the whole time serving. You're just helping people. Yep, walk over here. Oh yeah, yep. Sign in over here. Go vote over here. And you're trying to be, not trying to be. You are being as, well, the terrible word to say is diplomatic as possible. Like
nice, trying to be nice. Some people just don't understand, right?
Not,
They just don't.
Not just nice, but you don't want to influence
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah.
like we had a vote here in Illinois called the Fair Tax Act or something like that. That's the name they used on the commercial, but the actual name of the law was like, paragraphs. And this one lady, she calls me over. And so you're trying to be, confidential. You don't want to see her votes and things like that. And she goes, hey, this one right here, is this the Fair Tax Act? And I'm like, well, I don't want to tell her that it is because I might influence, she studies. So you're just trying to be very, like I said, confidential and, impartial. That's the word I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Impartial. Like, hey, I really honestly didn't care who you voted for. My job was not to figure out who won the night of the election. My job was to get you in safe, confidently get you out the door so the next person could get in and exercise their right. And let me tell you, I'm so glad I did it and I will do it again. Boy, it was just not as easy as I thought it might have been.
No, it's great that you did that. It's the first thing you mentioned track officials. It's the first thing you notice when you go to the polls, if you're voting in person, is that they just don't have the number of election officials that they once did, and the ones they do tend to be older, and with COVID going on, there was a big shortage.
It was an immediate thought of track coaches. Yeah. That's exactly where I went to. I was like, oh, this is track officials. I was like, oh yeah, they're excellent. They have a lot of experience. They've done this before. They know what they're doing. However, they're at an age and stage in their life we need to continually be filling up. It was exactly the right analogy, was that track officials.
Well, I'm gonna vote in Champaign next year. And
hey, we did more vote by mail than I've ever. I didn't even know about vote by mail, but I did it though because I was like, first of all, I didn't want to go. I still thought I was going to do the election judge thing, so I knew I was going to be busy that day because you're not allowed to vote. If you're an election judge, you cannot vote at your polling place. So you have to do it. Yeah, you have to do it early. Again, it's part of that impartiality and those kind of things. So, but hey, listen, I wanted to end this on that great story about your wife, not on me eating a Jimmy John's sub in the corner like a little rat so I could get back and serve, man.
That's great. I think that's a great service you're doing there.
Well,
that's great.
Speaking of service, Rob, hey, for real though, not just so there's two sides of what I think you have done for this sport. One is the side of coaching and as an athlete and the coaching clinics and things like that. Very powerful. You've always been present where you are. I love that you said that you are where you are, be where you are. So you've always made a huge positive impact there. But like I said, I've been here, I'm pushing 15 years now, which boggles me as a guy who never lived any one place more than 4 years to be at a career now for 15 just boggles me. But I've seen the impact you have made for us here at Gill Athletics as someone who represents our equipment, and I just can't, for all of us, for me personally, for our entire company, and for coaches and athletes around the world, literally, I don't think we can ever say thank you enough for what you have done, and because I know you're not done, what you will continue to do. That's the exciting part. We're not done here. We're just ending one chapter and moving to the next.
True. Well, that's very kind of you to say. Really appreciate it. But I also appreciate what you're doing, Mike, and these podcasts are excellent, and it's a great opportunity for people to learn, and you're educating a lot of people, and I always, the growth of track and field continues with Gill Athletics and MF Athletic. It's the companies that we work with because of the people we work for, like David Hodge, Eric Falk, and the people we work with. They're responsible for the sport growing, and not totally responsible, but they have a
part of the
big
puzzle.
impact with that. Yeah, part of the puzzle. So always appreciate what the Gill guys, like Bill would always get said, "This is the Gill guys, all right."
Hey, it is with a lot of pride.
What you're doing right now is fantastic, and you've been I know you're kind of replacing a little bit of a legend there in your present present position, and you seem like you're fitting right in.
Well, it is a lot of honor when someone calls me the Gill guy. That means a lot to me because I sit on the shoulders of a lot of people, starting back with Harry Gill, that have were part of the puzzle. Absolutely. It's amazing. But thank you, Rob, man. I'm so appreciative of you, man. I appreciate the kind words about the podcast. You know, I called it Connections for a reason. I want a little bit to what you said about, some of these coaches that are not in their county Hall of Fames or other respective Hall of Fames. It's important to me to capture this history so that
I tell you, if
learn this.
Somebody knows somebody like that, or if it's the person themselves, I don't care. Just call me up or give me a call or email me or something and say, hey, this guy's never in our Hall of Fame.
What's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
Well, I still have an Ohio cell phone number, 330-701-3784. 330-701-3784. Now, MF gave me a toll-free number when I first started with them. And it actually, and Eric Falk actually worked it out to be 188 Lasorsa.
No way. Is that right?
So I've had that the whole time. So it's 188-527-6772. Now
I got to renegotiate my contract. I don't have my own phone number. Come on now.
Oh, wait a second. There's a pizza chain in the Midwest called Lasorsa's Pizza.
Okay.
And what they do is that they have a lot of franchisees. You call a main number, and if you call that number, then they farm it out to that particular franchisees. Well, their phone number is 188 Lasorsa. It's off by one digit of my phone number.
Do you get a lot of pizza orders?
5-6 a day.
No way. Are you serious?
All the time. Oh, constantly. And I have to go through the same explanation all the time. I said, I'm in California. I'd like to deliver your pizza for you.
You kind of sound like the pizza guy too.
Yeah.
You're like, whatever, pizza man, just give him a pepperoni. Rob, man, thank you so much for being here. Please give your best to your wife. What an amazing story. I'm so glad she was present to listen to this weird guy who had just missed his flight and still didn't shun you. I love that, man. That's so awesome. What an amazing story.
Well, thanks, Mike. Really appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Everybody, that's Rob Lasorsa. Thanks for being here tonight.